This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to the program. Joining me now, John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Good to see you, sir. And are you French opened out?
Well, I had a full morning of French Open, and I've had enough French Open for today, maybe for a year. Yeah.
All right.
It was a good men's final. Very, very entertaining, very, very epic play. Let's put it that way.
Well, it only comes around once a year, so that it's good that you're content for a year.
Yeah.
The French Open.
Yeah.
Let's begin our conversation on politics, and let's start in France. How about that? We'll start with Joe Biden was in France on the beaches of Normandy, celebrating the 80th anniversary of D-Day, a phenomenal event in world history. What did you make of the president's remarks? What did you think of the reaction to those remarks? This was a pretty big celebration.
It was a major celebration, and he had a theme to his remarks, which was political and timely. And it's that the world, the free world, the Western world, rose up in 1944 at great sacrifice to stop attacks on freedom and to stop the bad guys. And that requires international cooperation and what's known as internationalism. And he is greatly concerned whether our international spirit in regard to Ukraine and otherwise, but particularly Ukraine, is strong now, and it needs to be. And the celebration on that beach stood as testimony to that. I thought that was an appropriate statement, a timely statement, the important statement for the occasion. Nothing wrong with tying it to current events, even if political, if it in fact is powerfully relevant, as it was. The reaction pretty good, except from Republicans who made a big deal on social media about him starting to sit down and then not finishing sitting down, and Jill leading him away. They said he had some sort of episode. That was the kind of thing you see on partisan social media that largely comes to nothing. The speech, he acquitted himself well, represented his country, represented our country's leadership in the world, at least adequately, if not better than that, on that occasion.
Your newspaper, in the Sunday newspaper, had a fact check on that.
What did they say?
Social media. It basically said it wasn't true, that there was a chair there and you just couldn't see it. So this talk of him.
He wasn't sure, I guess, whether to sit down, or maybe he was, who knows? Maybe he was addled in the moment about what he was supposed to do.
Right.
Okay. But the speech was, I don't want to say fine, because it was better than that. I don't want to say great, because it was less than that. But it served the purpose, and he served the international interest well.
Yeah. Joe Biden was, I guess, 3 years old when the Normandy invasion took place, if I'm doing my math right there. If he's 83, and this was the 80th anniversary. So not that he'd have a memory of it or anything, but.
He's not 83, is he? One of us is wrong about his age. I thought it was.
Maybe he's 81.
Yeah. So he
would have been.
He was a toddler and does not have strong personal recollection.
Right.
Okay.
Let's move on back to the state of Arkansas. Governor Sarah Sanders gets a clean wash from prosecutor Will Jones of Pulaski County. He says there's insufficient proof of any criminal activity in the Lectern Gate audit referral that was sent to him by the Bureau of Legislative Audit after those legislative hearings. Does this end our controversy over the lectern finally and for good?
I wouldn't say for sure. I think there's some folks out there still talking about some federal wire fraud interest. I don't think that exists, but I don't want to say it's definitely over as long as somebody's still willing to push it. I think but most likely this is the end, and I think it should be the end. I think we've discussed it on here, and I said I don't think we ought to have prosecution on this. I support what the prosecutor did. I don't like Sarah Sanders. I don't like what happened here, but we don't have to have a criminal trial over it. The path to opposing a politician whom you oppose is not properly through a courtroom. We're going to have to vote our way out of whatever fix you think the state is in. And in the end, this was a piece of furniture priced extravagantly, bought curiously, kept in storage, and eventually paid for by private Republican Party money after a blogger got wind of a lawyer blogger, Matt Campbell, got wind of what was going on. So do we want to haul the governor of the state into a courtroom for sort of a Manhattan South over that? It's called prosecutorial discretion. If you're a great stickler and hyper-partisan, you can say, yes, she should be charged. But I don't think it was in the best interest of the state. I don't think it was in the best interest of government. And I think in the end, you got furniture that was paid for. That shouldn't have been bought the way it was bought, but it didn't rise to the level of something that a prosecuting attorney's office in a county with a lot of crime to investigate ought to concern itself with. I think that's what this was. I support prosecutorial discretion. It's used every day, at least every week, in deciding whether to go forward, whether something is worth the time and effort. And I think we ought to put this lectern behind us, except for whatever it revealed to you about your governor. I know what it revealed to me. I know how I feel about it, but as I said, we don't have to go to court over it. We can go to the polling place over it and see what happens.
Well, there could be some changes in the polling place come next election cycle. The Republican Party of Arkansas held a convention this weekend, and one of the things they passed, well, first of all, they replaced the convention chairman with the current chairman of the party. Right. He's still the party chairman, but he's not the convention chairman. That was a little odd in and of itself. But then they voted to close primaries, meaning you'll have to register Republican to vote in a Republican primary in future elections. I'm not sure how that works logistically or legally, but it's going to complicate some things. What's your take on that move by I think the further right wing of the Republican Party?
Well, the first thing is there's something going on internally in the Republican Party, and it is extreme because Doyle Webb and the current Chairman Wood have been overthrown by a new regime, headed at this convention by a woman from Saline County, where the Saline County Republicans, get this, have voted no confidence in Tom Cotton and John Bozeman and French Hill over their Ukraine votes. So there is a active extreme right group which has seized power in the state Republican convention. And that's, the way when you got things going well, the one thing that can cause you trouble is getting too rivalry filled within getting too greedy. And I think the right wing element is getting too greedy. What this is, just to be clear, is I believe these people think that the Republican they know the Republican primary is tantamount to election. So they just want to get the right people nominated. And there continues to be news or movement coming even from people like me that moderates and independents ought to vote in some sort of concerted way to get a better quality of candidates from our point of view nominated. I think this element of the Republican Party sees that and wants to put that talk out of business. I get it, but I'm also an increasingly nonpartisan person who believes the hyperpartisanship is killing the country. But that's what's happening here. But it is, and it's too bad, because a moderate person has no chance of getting a nomination unless when only registered Republicans can vote in Republican primaries. So that's where we are. That's what it's about. And as you say, it's early. We haven't had time to study this, but how's this going to work? We don't have party registration requirements. The state pays for primaries. Can one party unilaterally do this? And if so, how will it work? All of that remains to be worked out. But those kinds of things don't concern ideological zealots. And that seems to be who's in charge here on the Republican side right now.
A couple of curious observations. I don't have answers for these either, but just some other things to throw out for people to chew on over the next couple of days. Number one, I mean, I'm old enough to remember governors typically control their political parties. This seems like something, I have not heard any public statements from Governor Sanders on this, but it did seem out of line from her choice of leadership that things went as they did over the weekend. So I'm curious to see how that reconciles with the governor's desires. And secondly, like you said, we don't have party registration mandated in this state. I could see some people showing up on election day and not realizing that they're not registered in one party or the other, being told they can't vote. We're already a low voter turnout state as it is, particularly in primaries, and we don't have same day registration. So I don't know. I see a potential big time traffic jam on the interstate on this one come next election cycle, primary election cycle.
I think what you see is true, and the curiosity you cite, which is even Sarah Sanders not conservative enough for these people, and has she lost control of her own party, and that the person she picked to head it, through whom she got her lectern paid for, now not suitable for this emerging further to the right element of the Republican Party, which just did a little coup in the state convention and imposed this rule. That's all. We haven't, at the time of our recording, we haven't heard from her, but that's going to be very interesting because, we call the governor the titular head of the party, and that means effectively the leader of the party. Not evident that she was this weekend.
Yeah. All right. He's John Brummett. He's a columnist with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Always good to get your take. Thank you.
Thank you, Roby. See you next time. Bye-bye.